Happy Friday, everyone. We made it. Another week down. The weekend's almost here. And I just wanted to recap what I like to call the Sussex Crash Report because, it used to be a 1 week thing, just a one off. And now every week it's just another thing after another. And so I compile it all for this loveliness. And with me today, we've got some breaking news. And with me today, of course, I've got my fabulous friend slash brother from another mother, boop, Tom Sykes. Hello, Tommy. How you?
Hey Paula, I'm pretty good, thanks. Yeah, I'm pretty good. There's some pretty hot news coming out this evening, right?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so everyone has to realize just as we were about to press this record, it's breaking news. Prince Harry's getting a taste of his own medicine, and he is being sued for defamation by his old charity, Sentebale, and the chairwoman, Sophie Chandaka. Tom, tell us all about it.
Well, it's pretty astonishing stuff, Paula. So we knew there was a lot of bad blood between Sentebale and between Harry. You may remember last year they parted company very acrimoniously. It ended up with this extraordinary scene of Sophie Chandauka on Sky Television accusing Harry of being a racist and a misogynist and basically stuffing the board with all his cronies. And by the way, I should say that Sentebale is a charity that was initially established for AIDS orphans in Lesotho, a small, impoverished mountain kingdom in southern Africa, that he established with a friend of his, Prince Sisio. And for several years, everything went well. And then things didn't go so well. They appointed Chandauka as the new chairwoman. And she basically told Harry that he was a big problem, as was revealed in Tom Bower's book, which we'll get into. The breaking news today is that Sentebale is now suing Harry for libel. And if you want, I can tell you exactly what they're saying.
Yes, please do. Because also, you brought up Tom Bower's book, and it's a great point because Sophie Chandaka had the cojones, and God bless her, to, on a private plane, going from an event to a very long place away, looked at Harry and said, "Your brand is tarnished, and your wife's brand is tarnished. She should not be a part of this, but we need you there." He had not shown up for 4 years. So tell me exactly what she's saying in this lawsuit, please.
So what they're saying it's defamation. They're saying it follows what they call a coordinated adverse media campaign, which has damaged the charity's reputation. It said that they're suing Harry and Mark Dyer, who's a friend of Harry's, who's was another one of the trustees at the time. The charity seeks the court's intervention, protection, restitution following a coordinated adverse media campaign conducted since March the 25th, 2025, that has caused operational disruption and reputational harm to the charity, its leadership, and its strategic partners. The proceedings have been brought against Prince Harry and Mark Dyer, identified through evidence as the architects of that adverse media campaign, which had significant viral impact and has triggered an onslaught of cyberbullying directed at the charity and its leadership. And they
Wow.
go on, about how they've been harmed by this media
Right.
campaign that Harry,
Right.
launched against them.
Well, and of course, everyone will remember that when they tried to bully Sophie Chandaka out of the role, and then, of course, sources let slip that she had financially mismanaged things and made her look like she wasn't an Oxford educated lawyer or a very big businesswoman who also, by the way, had been on the board for several years before she was made chairwoman. That is astounding, Tom. My jaws dropped, and I didn't think it dropped all that often, but then the Sussexes came along and it's starting to happen weekly. But that is just the latest. And this is
Yeah, and I mean,
happening. It's happening every day now. It's just literally the latest chapter in the days of our Montecito lives, because this is the cherry on top, but oh my God, there was so much other stuff this week as well. I mean, there was embarrassments, there were hurt feelings, there were even more hypocrisies. It's insane. But let's start with my favorite thing, because Harry and Meghan are getting to packing. She does like to pack a lot, 20 trunks. However, she's right up there literally with Fergie in the amount of stuff that she will pack, because she does like to switch outfits 4 or 5 times a day. However, the funniest thing is, so they're getting ready for Down Under, and then we had a Daily Mail exclusive, which I thought was pretty funny. It was the leaking of their operational notes. And so, for people who don't understand, usually what happens, the PR person, in this case, it's Liam, gives out to select journalists, this is what they're going to be doing so you can follow them. The journalists are not supposed to give it out to the rest of the media. However, they did. And Tom, what did we learn?
Yeah, I mean, not a huge amount really, other than that they were going to Australia and they were doing various events. I mean, I don't know. I thought it was a kind of weird story for the Mail to do, to be totally
Mm,
honest. I mean, let alone the practical difficulties of if PRs aren't able to share operational notes. So just it didn't seem to me like a hugely revealing story.
mm.
But I
Okay. Well, I will tell you what I thought was revealing then. Number one, Tom, I thought that they had the questions of whether it's a publicity tour. And apparently, according to the Sussexes, this is not a publicity tour. The program is rooted in long-standing areas of work for the Duke and Duchess, with a clear focus on amplifying organizations delivering measurable impact. The visit prioritizes listening, learning, and supporting communities rather than promotions. He's also saying that the visit is funding privately because, of course, they were invited by a number of groups. However, there is the whole point of the fact that there will be police around. And unfortunately, anytime there's police, there's taxpayer money. The other thing that I thought was interesting was that they're going to be visiting a children's hospital and attending an event on Sydney Harbour, hosted by Invictus Australia. They'll be visiting an AFL club in Melbourne, a rugby union match in Sydney, and an unnamed gathering in Canberra, which is the seat of the government. But I thought it was interesting to note that they are not going to put themselves out there to be part of a booing crowd, because they're not going to partake in any walkabouts. And also, what I thought was interesting is, they do like to visit charities and children and all that, but they never reached out to any Jewish groups to perhaps take in a Bondi Beach remembrance. What did you think about that? Because there were, of course, children wounded in the Bondi Beach Hanukkah massacre.
I think that it just goes to show how incredibly difficult it is to plan these trips and what a massive mistake they made leaving the royal family, quite frankly. Because if this is what they want to do, then why leave the royal family? I mean, you could look at this and go, oh my God, they're doing royal jobs again. Do you know what I mean?
Mm,
It's literally like what you'd be doing if you were doing a royal job, but except you're doing it without any proper political sort of analysis, just very
mm,
amateurish political analysis of what feels, right by your vibes today. And you're doing it without any serious proper backup. You're doing it without any proper state security. And you've got all these weird, like, commercial gigs tacked on the side. Like, so they can say as much as they like, it's not a publicity tour. But then at other times they've been saying, well, they could have just gone and made their money and gone home and they want to do this instead. So it's just like, it is really, really complicated. And now they're having the ass sued off them by Sophie Chandaukar as they get on the plane. I mean, there hasn't been a response from Harry's side yet about
yeah.
that Sentebale thing. Because, I mean, how can they do it? How can they cope with all this stuff? Like, it's like they're completely at sea, is my feeling. The whole thing feels completely chaotic. And I predict that this Australia tour is going to be a complete sea of chaos from beginning to end as they try and figure out where they're supposed to be, who's taking them, what they're meant to be doing, what they're meant to be saying, what they're not meant to be saying. Like, it's just, why put yourselves through that? If you don't want to be members of the royal family, why are you doing these weird jobs that are exactly like being a member of the royal family?
Yes. And, I love your point about how the palace actually does the research and sets the ground. And right now they're facing a lot of embarrassments. And let's just go through them, shall we? Number one, Australians don't actually like them. The Ipsos polls have their popularity ratings are probably flushed down the toilet right now. But also, there was that petition that people set up on GoFundMe of, don't, no taxpayer dollars. And right now, that's fine, but it's kind of turned into a popularity thing of how much people don't like them. People who are even aware that the government may or may not be funding are still signing it just to show their displeasure with the couple. And they've got almost 50,000 signatures right now. And then, of course, you've got the embarrassment of, well, several embarrassments. The first one is Meghan's Gemma O weekend, which, I've been reporting on over and over and over that they are still not sold out, that there's only 300 spots and they can't even sell 300 despite looking at people and saying, you know what, you can now have your own room. Yeah, it's going to be great. Come on in. And also, people are wondering, is this a promotional spot for the Soho House, which will be opening in Sydney later this year? And it also has their global head of leadership or membership is a guy named Markle Anderson, who helped coordinate this entire trip. I mean, what is your thought on the entire girls' weekend, Tom?
Well, I think it's just an absolutely classic example of why the Queen always argued that if you were half in, half out, it was a recipe for disaster. Because it's probably just a really good illustration of why the Queen was so adamant that this couple couldn't be half in and half out at the Sandringham summit. Because the moment you start trying to be half in and half out, and you start trying to combine charitable work, and I'm sure they believe very much in their charitable work that they want to do, and I'm sure they believe that they are doing great stuff, or whatever they might think they're doing. But the problem is that when you combine that with charging $300 a ticket to have your photo taken with Meghan, you are on a losing wicket, because you have just blatantly cashed in on who you are. I mean, you're just so shameless. I mean, I slightly take my hat off to them for being so unbelievably shameless. They're just like, literally, come and take a photo with me for 300 quid. I mean, it is incredibly embarrassing. It's incredibly demeaning.
It's actually even worse. It's 3,000 quid for the whole weekend.
Yeah.
So it's one of these things where you just go, wow. And also, I'm hearing Meghan is not even staying at the hotel. So it's a girls' weekend where she'll just drop in, you know, answer some questions that are pre-approved, nothing to do, I'm sure, with their kids or publicity or anything that could be construed as, prickly, or at this point, nothing to do about Sophie Chandaka. But it's just crazy. And then take a photo, get in a car, and go back to Harry to an actual 5-star hotel. But, Harry's also got a bit of an embarrassment going on right now. It turns out oh, yes?
Can I just ask you one thing? Because you've done so much reporting on this. So I've been reading your Substack, obviously, and following your reports, but just to explain what's happening. So basically, they're pretending it's sold out. You have to write in with like your sob story of why you're a good person to go. And then basically by return of email, you get a message saying, oh, actually, we've managed to find a space for you. But
Yes.
then did you say, I also saw your report saying it's no longer a sharing room, it's a single room, which would suggest a massive change of a massively reduced amount of numbers, basically.
Yes,
Is that correct?
absolutely. But the other thing is, Tom, so I've got a bunch of friends in Australia and they've been doing the background scenes for me. So it's an oldest tool in the marketer's book. You say, we're having an event, and it immediately sold out. Are you interested? Here's a wait list. Put your name on. So people put their name on the wait list, and then they are pre-screened to make sure that there aren't any rants against Meghan on their social. And if you get through, then they say, you've been invited. Luckily, there's one spot left or spots left. Would you and your best friend like to come? Then you can share a room. Now you don't have to share a room. But the craziest thing, I had somebody who went through it. Now, meanwhile, it's password protected, but their password is, and I don't want to shock you here, her best life for
Oh
her best
no.
life weekend. Yeah.
I thought you were
It's
going
like,
to say it was password.
no, but it is a little bit like you and I using 1, 2, 3, 4 for our ATM pins, right? So all you got to do, you can go to checkout, click in her best life, and then a friend of mine actually just wanted to see how many she could do. She got up to over $100,000 before they said, okay, that's your limit. It was insane. There's a lot of spots left. And the people who have expressed interest but didn't go and check out, they're now getting bombarded with emails going, hey there, click here to pay. By the way, no refunds. It's nuts. It's desperation, and it's even more desperate because you look at something like 2023 when Gwyneth Paltrow came and did an event, her best life event. 3,000 people showed up. There were tickets and it was sold out for 3,000 people. Not only that, everyone wanted to go. You know, Shauna Kay told me nobody could get a nanny or a babysitter for that weekend. It was completely blocked out. And she also mentioned that there's absolutely no buzz about this event, that no influencers are talking about it. Nobody with any rank or clout is posting. Nobody wants to admit they're going because they're not. And it's really, really just a grating, sinking feeling, you know?
I think you're absolutely right, Paula, and I think like the reality is that they're just not very important people anymore. So there's still, there's still a certain amount, and people say, why are you so interested in them? Why are you still writing about them? Why are people so interested in them? And I think the reason that people are so interested in them is because basically they tried to bring down the monarchy, right? And they did a
Mhm.
lot of damage to the monarchy. And I think that perhaps, it is a poor reflection on human nature. But I also think it is true that there is a schadenfreude about seeing these people who thought that the monarchy was holding them back, that Netflix was holding them back, that it was all someone else's fault, that their own brilliance was so indubitable, being kind of brought down to earth. And I think
Mm.
that is part of the reason why people are so fascinated in
Yes.
continuing to follow this story, because at the same time as people want to read stuff about them, they want to watch stuff about them, they want to hear stuff about them, they actually don't want to buy a ticket to go and see them. And you have to wonder, it's not a good situation where people are actually much more interested in disliking you than they are in having any affection for you. Now, the one thing I will say is that they do still have significant support amongst younger people. And it is interesting when you look at those polls how it breaks down, especially Harry has significant support. I mean, my kids, for example, right, who are all under the age of 20 or what have you, they don't know much. Weirdly, you wouldn't believe this despite my job, but they actually don't know much about the royal story. But they kind of think Harry's a laugh and Harry's fun and they'd like to go and have a pint with Harry. But with Meghan, I don't think you even see that now. So
Mm.
it's hard to imagine that this is going to end in any successful way. And I'm amazed really just at the speed with which they've been reduced to selling photographs of themselves.
Oh, absolutely. It's like the variety covers. 4 years ago, Meghan was the queen of Hollywood, and then now you've got her digging up dirt on a cover. But, I also wanted to mention the worst thing for them, Tom, right now, for Meghan at least, is Pamela Anderson is also going to be in Australia at the exact same time, doing events in Melbourne and Sydney. However, when Harry and Meghan are in Melbourne, Pamela will be in Sydney and then reverse so that ne'er the two shall meet. But Pamela's event. It's in conversation. Pamela is sold out.
Well, I'm
And
not
it's
surprised actually
thousands
because
of people.
I'm not surprised actually because Pamela has built this amazing kind of brand and community on Substack and through her socials. I mean, she's very much seen as a survivor, somebody that, and of course the Pam and Tommy film that we all watched, was it a year or two ago? It was so awful the way that she was kind of exploited and everybody was just exploiting her. And like I'm and that's the difference, isn't it? Like Pammy, there's something authentic there. There's a story to tell. She's come through something. She's on the other side of it. Meghan, what's the story? You had it all and you threw it all away?
Uh-huh. Or what's the story? You were the bull in the china shop, wrecked all the china, and then came out and said, "Oh gosh, they hurt me." I agree with you 100% on that. But now we have to get to Harry because there's some slightly embarrassing news with Harry as well. He's going to the InterEdge Summit. He is going to be giving, as you and I have discussed, the keynote speech on mental health in the workplace, despite never having a full-time job. And, I discovered today that it's fascinating. There is a law firm that is the major sponsor of this event. And the law firm was just sued by an employee and just settled, by the way. Last year, they had to settle with an employee for discrimination. The employee said that they discriminated against him because he was in a wheelchair. And what's embarrassing about that is a lot of Harry's Invictus Games participants are also in wheelchairs. So it seems that it's a bit of a sticky wicket, if you will, using a British term, I would say. Don't you think?
Well, I think it's another really good example of what I've been saying for some time now, which is that when the Royals organise these things, it's not just that they have people at home organising it, it's that they have a massive network of unpaid volunteers and unpaid people who just admire the royal family, who are sourcing stuff to them. So they could say, listen, there's been this issue with this law firm, like maybe we should look into it a bit for you or find out something on background about what's really been going on with it. Do you know what I mean? And there's nothing like that available to the Sussex because they just don't have that kind of popular institutional deep state kind of support now. So who is there to look out for them? Nobody. It's just they could show up. There could be anyone there. They could be mass murderers could be booked in. Do you know what I mean? They can't.
Yeah.
They just don't have the intel.
No, and also the other issue is with that summit, apparently that's not selling out either. So they just had to release a third tranche of tickets that are half price to the expensive $3,200 tickets. So, it's Harry and Meghan are about to eat a lot of crow on this trip, I think.
I
It's
think
going to
you're
be,
right.
oof,
I think
yeah.
it's going to be very, very embarrassing. I think it's started badly. It's getting worse, and I think it's going to end in just lots of recrimination and people upset. I think they kind of thought that it would just be a brilliant, easy thing, go to Australia for 3 days, and again, it's just the complete sort of naivety. It's really interesting that it's the first place that they've gone to that's 100% fully English speaking, which I think is making a huge difference. Obviously, there's the fact that the king is the head of state, and I know they've gone to Canada and America and blah, blah, blah. But it's like outside of North America, it's always been places like Nigeria or Jordan or Colombia or whatever. Whereas in Australia, there is a really active English speaking media that everybody all around the world that's English speaking is amplifying and repeating the stories. So, I mean, it's just why on earth they thought this was a good idea, I don't know. And I assume it's because they looked at the data on the website and went, oh, we're getting a lot of traffic from Australia. Let's start as ever in Australia. I mean, that's got to be the assumption. But as you reported yourself, she's on like some terrible, crummy, third-rate TV show. She's not even on like the big morning sofas and stuff. I mean, like, what the heck?
Well, here's the deal. The other thing is, They might have, you're giving them too much credit, Tom. I don't think that they looked at any data at all, because if they would, they might have looked at their popularity polls or might have read a story noting that Australia has a huge monarchist population that supports the monarchy. But also, they didn't even bother to look around and say, oh, we haven't been there in 8 years. They just remembered that the last time they went, everybody loved them. But they didn't bother to think or read the stories about what happened after, when all the news reports came out of Meghan's bad behavior and Harry's supporting his wife, so therefore bad behavior, making people cry, and also sniffing at the Australian population, saying, ugh, what is everyone standing around here for? It's so silly. Or my favorite, I can't believe I'm not getting paid for this, to like shake people's hands and do meet and greets, which, I mean, to be fair, now she is getting paid for it. But it's just,
Just not very
nobody.
much. Just not
Yeah,
very much.
no, there's wild reports. There was $1 million and there was 250,000. No, I'm going to say 50,000 tops, period. And even her people are saying she's getting a nominal fee for the Her Best Life weekend.
Mm.
It's really about promoting the Soho House, or as ever, should it ever come to Australia. But, it's just crazy. They're also going to Canberra to talk to the government. God, leave it alone. And then they also do stuff like, I'm involved in this group, Fair Play, and Fair Play is the one that actually helped the parents bring the lawsuit against Meta, the lawsuit that the parents just won, in which Meta was just opening up the internet to kids, even though they had quote unquote controls. Well, the day that the parents won, Harry and Meghan come out and do this huge announcement as if they were backing them. They weren't. And in fact, Archwell back in the day had come to Fair Play to try to work with them, and then out of the blue ghosted Fair Play and then tried to do their own thing. It didn't work. And now they're just trying to take credit for Fair Play. Oh, I think I just gave you an exclusive that I haven't actually put on my Substack yet. That'll happen tomorrow. But let's do a hard right turn, because I'm done with those fools. Let's do a hard right turn over to your neck of the wood in England. And we've got, this is my favorite, Sarah Ferguson, Fergie, has turned into the real life Carmen SanDiego. Where is she, Tom?
Well, she's sofa surfing, we're told, around Europe, staying with mates. I think sofa surfing might be overdoing it. I don't think Sarah will be staying anywhere other than very comfortable beds. Yeah, there's been obviously loads of speculation about where she is. I have to say that, in fairness, somebody who can manage to keep their head down for 4 months and not be seen has a pretty tight network of mates. So I will give Sarah that. She obviously has managed to pick some good friends over the years who are looking after her and doing her shopping for her and keeping her out of the way, because it's tricky to stay completely off social media, off mainstream media, completely out of view. What is it? December she was last seen, disappeared, and
Yeah,
all of January, all of February, all of March, and halfway through April, and we still haven't seen her. I mean, I find it very hard to believe that she's not writing a book somewhere. It feels to me like, what else really could she be doing that she'd be so happy to be completely out of the way?
yeah.
I have heard, and I was at London Book Fair in London a few weeks ago, and there was a lot of gossip about how Sarah's people were pitching a book and people were being secretive and all of that kind of stuff. I think it would be worth a lot of money. I think it would, whatever people say about, oh, I don't want to read it. Yeah, you do.
I
Yeah,
do.
you would. Yeah. And so, but where is she? We don't know. She's like the
Yeah.
Scarlet Pimpernel. We can't locate her. We can't find her.
Tip of the hat to old Fergie. I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's pretty amazing. Now we're going to get on to King Charles and Ascot, because there were the stories. He's not going to invite Beatrice and Eugenie. Then he is. And it seems a little wish-washy and kind of weak to me. Tom, what do you think?
So what happened was that after you need to go back to when Andrew was kicked out of the royal family, right? So there were two attempts to kick him out by Charles, typically kind of cack-handed. One, I think, on October the 14th, and the second, I think, on October the 30th. And after the final successful attempt to kick him out of the royal family, they issued a statement and they issued briefing notes along with it that said that the princess's position was entirely unaffected, right, by what had happened to the parents. Now, obviously, in a constitutional monarchy where your legitimacy is derived from your parents, it's a pretty weird situation that one ring can be cut and everything deriving and hanging from it doesn't go as well. But that was what was said. And apparently, William had told them that if they couldn't get their father out of Royal Lodge, that their titles were going to be up for grabs as well. So initially, it appeared that William had kind of given his consent to them keeping the titles as the price of getting rid of Andrew quietly. Well, that, of course, all changed with the second Epstein files dump, which their names were all over. There was this awful email from Andrew, 50 grand to each of the girls. And William's line hardened considerably, culminating in this briefing to the Mail on Sunday via Charlotte Griffiths, saying that they would not be invited to Ascot, and indeed would not be invited to any events really with the royal family ever again, which meshed a lot with what I'd been reporting, that William strongly felt that the Yorks, regardless of titles or anything, should never be seen with the royal family again. And also, you don't just have to take my word for it. Look at them at Christmas when he's staying completely out of view while they're walking to church. He won't get in the same camera frame as Beatrice and Eugenie. So, and then mysteriously, this report emerges saying that actually Charles will invite them to Ascot. Now, on one hand, you can say, oh, this is just a debate about whether or not they get invited to Ascot. It's not. It's a manifestation of the proxy war between Charles and William about the future of the monarchy. That's what it is. And the fact that it's playing out in the media with these conflicting briefings, and then, of course, we had Easter last weekend and we were told they weren't going to be there, but this was their own choice and the king had generously agreed, which, of course, was very reminiscent of the phrasing that was used when Andrew gave up his title, that he was giving up the title and the king had graciously agreed to allow him to do it. But what's really damaging about this is that it's actually a fight between the monarch and the heir, and it's playing out in the media, which is the worst place for it to play out.
Well, what's fascinating to me is that, well, at least William and Catherine don't like Ascot. And so they weren't going to go anyway. Ha! But before we go, just a quickie. Former Prince Andrew finally out of Wood Lodge into Marsh Lodge. Now, I love how everyone is trying to make a big hoo-ha and say Prince Edward and Princess Anne visited him over Easter. And oh my God, how dare they? But you and I have been talking, and I think it was more Prince Edward and Princess Anne saying, GTFO, buddy, it's time. Tick tock, tick tock. What do you think?
Well, I did initially think that, but then there was this weird briefing to the Mail and the Sun simultaneously. And I always say you can spot a good palace briefing because they send it to two newspapers with different owners. And the Sun, obviously, then it got picked up by the Times, saying that actually Edward had gone over to conduct a welfare check on his brother and that he was worried about his mental health, etc., etc., etc. And it really reminded me of something that Andrew Loney said to me. She said that he was very concerned that they were starting this campaign of mercy for Andrew, like he's had enough, he's been through enough, he should just be left to suffer. And I actually was talking about this the other day on my own channel, and I read out some of the Substack comments, and the top comment on my Substack when I wrote about this, saying that I felt that this was a campaign, the beginning of maybe Andrew should be let off campaign. The top comment was one saying, Virginia Giuffre is dead, Andrew is still here. And I thought that was a very succinct way of putting how most people will feel about any kind of softening up campaign, suggesting that Andrew has suffered enough and shouldn't face the full rigors of the law.
Well, I agree with you, and I do think he should. And I really, really would look forward to that trial. But anyway, thank you so much, Tom. You know I love you with all my heart. Next week we'll have to corral Plum on for some fashion too.
Well, we've got actually exciting news, Paul. We've got Plum coming on to the Royalist podcast
Mhm.
on Tuesday to take us through the Queen's 100 years of clothes exhibition, which is
Oh,
the Queen's
wow.
100th birthday next week. So they've done this brilliant exhibition in London with all of her clothes for 100 years. So we're actually going to record it tomorrow. And then we'll have it on the podcast on Tuesday. So that's going to be
That's
exciting.
awesome. Also, do you know
Yeah.
what I want Plum to do? I want Plum to show me how to dress like Kate and Harriet for less. I want to look
I love it.
cute and hot, but not for thousands. All right. Thank you so much, Tom. Everybody, I love you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And don't forget to subscribe to The Royalist on Substack. That's Tom's place where he breaks all sorts of news. And also the Royalist channel on YouTube. All right. Mwah. See you guys later. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.